Let's talk to Carson Palmer, former Pro Bowl quarterback, 15 years in the league. Carson, go back to your career. Tell me the best because I think this Niners defense with a hard cap, it's really hard to create this. I mean, it's just dudes. I mean, 2 good linebackers, 2 good safeties. What's the best defense you ever faced?
It's a toss-up between the Baltimore Ravens with Ed Reed, Ray Lewis, and that whole crew, and that dynasty that Pittsburgh built. That was all defense when you look back at the studs they had on the back end, on the defensive line, at the linebacker core in the mid-2000s. Those were 2 of the dominant defenses.
So, Carson, you were a great quarterback, and Jalen Hurts is emerging as one. What did those defenses force you to do that you didn't have to do on most Sundays?
Well, they sat back and forced us to run the ball. We were a passing offense when I was playing against those 2 offenses or those 2 defenses, and they sat back in 2 high looks and had 2 high safeties and really forced you to run the ball. And I think that's what they might have to do this weekend. That running game needs to get going. But sitting back and not letting the offensive players get on your back end and run over the top of your backside of your defense is really, really important this weekend.
Are you shocked? And again, you were a Heisman winner, a number 1 pick. And I've said this before. You looked and played like a number 1 pick. And there are those. Peyton Manning, big, good arm, legacy, talent. But this league is full of guys who went to North Carolina State, Miami of Ohio. I mean, that's the history. What do you make of Brock Purdy? It could be lightning in a bottle. Is it lasting? Is it, I don't know an answer. What do you make of it?
I think it comes crashing down this weekend for Brock, and he's had an unbelievable run as everybody's witnessed. And you guys were just talking about Kyle Shanahan and the brilliance of Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan gives your receivers cushion. He gives your receivers and your tight ends separation. And when you have to throw tight balls into tight windows against really good coverage, like I think we're going to see Philly play this weekend on the back end, makes it really, really hard. And at the end of the day, you hate to say it because everybody says, well, Tom Brady was a 6th-round pick. Brock Purdy was a 7th-round pick for a reason. And I think we're going to see a little bit of weather. It sounds like there might be some wind in Philly this weekend. So there's been some throws I've seen this offseason or this postseason where Brock doesn't quite have the velocity and the zip on the ball that a 1st, 2nd-round pick. And he's gotten away with it because there's been so much cushion created by the system that these receivers are running. And so I think these windows are going to be tight. If I was Philly, I'd play just a ton of man-to-man, try to stop Christian McCaffrey, and make Brock Purdy be really accurate and throw the ball with a lot of velocity in a 10 to 15 mile an hour wind environment. And we haven't seen him do that. So I think this is a huge weekend for Brock. Obviously a chance to go to the Super Bowl, but this is a great opportunity to go up against a phenomenal defense with a great pass rush and a ton of speed on the back end and make him throw really, really accurate throws where he's hitting his receivers in the face on the run and making it easy on them. And I just think we haven't seen him do that yet. And this is where he has to prove if he's worthy of being the guy that everybody's, the pedestal that everybody's putting him on.
Yeah, by the way, Brady is 6'4.5", 230, and drafted by a baseball team, a catcher. So Brady's never had a velocity issue. Comparing him, and it's also much more of a quarterback league now, so everybody's dying to find a quarterback. There were quarterbacks. Montana slipped. Brady slipped. I don't see the comp with Brady and Purdy. I don't. Now, let's go to the AFC. High ankle sprains, I would imagine, for a pocket quarterback are annoying, but for a mobile quarterback, I think there's probably more issues. Go to your career. I'm sure you guys all get them. Is it take velocity off the ball? I mean, you could run actually more than people think. You tell me what a high ankle sprain, even if it's a grade 1, how does it change the way you play?
Well, it's different for me than it is Patrick Mahomes. My game was in the pocket. His game is outside the pocket. That's where he really gashes teams. And I don't think you're going to see it. I think this game sets up perfectly for Cincinnati. Cincinnati doesn't have an edge rusher that runs 4.3 or 4.4 like Von Miller that can run you down. They're a physical, Trey Hendrickson, big, heavy, strong. I think you're going to see this defensive line collapse the pocket and keep Mahomes in the pocket because he doesn't quite have that ability to get outside of it. But I think they're in for a world of trouble against this defense. It lets this defense sit on the back end, play coverage, keep the ball in front of them. And you got to assume your defensive line, who, again, is just so physical, is going to beat up this offensive line and get to Mahomes. And he's just not going to have that explosiveness, that quickness. When he was coming out, people didn't think he could run. And I think he's blown away expectations of his mobility. But we haven't seen him. You think back to the last Super Bowl when he had that turf toe injury, he didn't quite have the same mobility, and they weren't as explosive as they have been in the past against the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. And you just didn't see that explosiveness. I think it's going to be even worse. I think everything we're hearing out of Kansas City is too good to be true. It sounds like there's a lot of, they're trying to make it seem like it's better than it is, trying to make Cincinnati worry about his mobility. And I saw him in the video jogging in warmups, and he looked really, really good. It just sounds too good to be true to me. I think Cincinnati, this is exactly what they wanted. They're going to be able to keep him in the pocket, collapse the pocket, and keep their receivers in front of them on the back end.
I want to talk about a couple of great veteran quarterbacks and what you would do. So you've got a great life, and I don't need to disclose it, but one of the great places to live in America. And you could get a football right now, go out in your backyard and spin it. We all know that. I talk to Drew Bledsoe all the time. He's like, I never lost that. I just lost my love. I lost my legs. So you're Aaron Rodgers. You can still play. But, you get your wealth. You've got your ring. You've got your life. I think it'd be hard to give up $100 million or whatever it is. But what do you think right now? Now Green Bay's got a bunch of young players on the offense. No, Brady doesn't want, Brady wanted Gronk, Leonard Fournette. He didn't want those kids. Your gut feeling on what Aaron decides, if you had to, make a big decision, where do you think he goes on this?
I think he plays. I think he's wearing a uniform next year and playing in the National Football League. I think it's 50-50 if he's back in Green Bay, maybe New York playing for the Jets. I just think this was a taxing year for him.
Yeah.
Mentally, physically, emotionally. There were so many questions about his receivers, and then he was, everybody tried to paint it in a certain way that he was talking trash on his receivers, and he was always defending himself and defending his teammates. This was an emotionally taxing year. When you get to be 34, 35, 36, 37, you want to be playing on a great team. You want to be surrounded by great players. You don't want to be teaching guys how to run a curl route, teaching guys that it's their first or second year how to run a corner versus cover two. I mean, there's so many little things that took away energy out of his game, out of his preparation, out of his weekly schedule, just dealing with stuff with young guys. I mean, it's not their fault. They're young. They came from a run and gun college system, and now they're playing in an Aaron Rodgers system. That is emotionally, physically, like I said, all those things, that is taxing. I don't know if Aaron wants to go through that again, because they didn't really prove on as the season wore on that they just were on the cusp. They were just about to get it. They were about to make that leap. They still seem like a receiver core that has a lot of work to do. And again, Aaron's got the decision to make. Does he want to go through that again and go back to, Coach Rodgers and coaching these guys and bringing these guys along? Or does he want to try to find a new suitor that's got a more established veteran group of receivers and offensive players around him?
And Russell Wilson, some subscribe to the theory that as a mobile quarterback, he's a bit washed. I think Russell's very unique as a personality. I know him a little, not great. I think sometimes there's a little lack of self-awareness. I think the great quarterbacks tend to be unifiers. It kind of feels like if I said, quarterback's out tonight with the offensive lineman having beers, you'd be like, yeah, of course he is, right? Like Peyton had that quality. Sometimes Russell, many believe, doesn't. Do you think it's solvable, or by this time in his career, he's married, he's got his money, he's got a ring, that quarterbacks are what they are? Can you solve the Rubik's Cube here, or is this just his personality? He's a different cat.
He's definitely a different cat. It doesn't sound like he's the easiest and smoothest teammate. It doesn't sound like he's the easiest guy to coach. And you're seeing, like you mentioned, a decline in his physical attributes. And what made Russell so great and the magic that Russell brought to the field was he could get out of anything. He could have two guys bearing down on him. He could step up. He could spin out. And before you know it, he's launching one to Tyler Lockett down the field for 60 yards. You don't see that explosiveness anymore. We saw a couple runs. He had a nice touchdown run, I think, the second last game of the season. but it didn't look like the Russell Wilson that we're used to seeing in the blue and green of the Seattle Seahawks. He looks slower. He looks like he doesn't quite have that explosiveness.
Yeah.
And I just think we're starting to see a guy that's played a lot of football. He's taken a lot of hits. He's hit the ground a bunch of times. He's taken on tacklers. You're seeing a guy that his best attribute was his magic, and his magic came to life with his feet. And those feet are definitely slowing down.
By the way, Tommy Brady, 46 years old is pretty old in dog years and football years. What do you make of it? Would you hang her up and hang out with kids? I mean, he gets a lot of his kids now. I don't know what to, whenever I hear that, it's like, it's not like he didn't hang out with his kids. What do you make of what he's going to do?
Yeah, if anything, he's seeing his kids more because he's got them, now that he's single, he's got them on his hands solely, not he and his wife. So I don't think it's a kids thing. I mean, he looked pretty good. It's hard to say. I mean, as you watch, the first thing I assimilate any quarterback in age is where's their velocity?
Yeah.
Where is the ball jumping off his hand still? I still think it is. I don't see a decline. And you saw it. I felt it at the end of my career. You saw it with Roethlisberger and Breeze. You're not seeing that at age 46, and it does not make any sense. And I don't think anybody can figure it out but him. He has figured it out. I think he's going to be playing football again next year. Probably not in Tampa. I know there's some hype about Miami and New Orleans. Who knows where it's going to be, but I think he's wearing a football uniform again next year as well.
Are you going skiing today?
I'm not skiing. I'm in the office today. I got work to do.
Oh, God. You're retired. What do you mean work? You're just out there hanging out, and well, good for you.
I'm always working.
Hey, you look great. Great seeing you, man. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.